Oh, I guess I need an actual mic. Okay. All right. Here I am. All right, good evening. At this point, I'd like to call the meeting of the Hamilton-Wenham Regional School Committee to order on June 1st, 2022 at 7:02 p.m. I'd like to begin by inviting you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. Mr. Tracy, do we have anybody on the Zoom link?
We do not.
Okay. I'm gonna, before I give my spiel about public comment, I'm gonna ask whether there's anyone in the room who wants to offer a public comment. And there's no one on Zoom?
No one on Zoom.
Okay. I am gonna assume that means no one has a public comment to offer at this time. All right. Moving on. This is now, next up is a review of our school committee protocols, which we do at every meeting, and David has volunteered to read a little bit today. And
certainly did have
volunteer is a strong word there.
Wow.
As elected members of the Hamilton-Wenham Regional School Committee, we, including the superintendent, accept the high honor and trust that has been placed in us to ensure that the students of the district receive the best education possible. To that end, we hereby commit to the following in the conduct of our business. I was smiling at which one I had to read tonight. Number 12, the school committee recognized the importance of working collaboratively with town officials and actively seeking their support to improve the district.
Thank you.
Is that a subtle hint?
Okay. Next up, oh, and I guess since Amy is virtual, Julia, would you mind doing our secretarial honors?
Sure.
Okay. So next up is the consent agenda. Does anyone have any items they'd like to hold? Anna?
I'd like to hold the minutes from April 28th.
Okay, minutes from anything else? Okay, and Amy, you're not really there, right?
No, she's not.
Just making sure. Okay. All right, Julia, do you have a motion?
I move that the Hamilton-Wenham Regional School Committee accept the consent agenda with the exception of the minutes from April 28th.
Second.
Second by David Polito. All right, all those in favor? I think, even though Amy is not currently in the room, I think we're going to need to be doing a roll call vote because she is going to join us virtually. All right, Jen?
Yes.
Anna's a yes. Anna?
Yes.
Julia?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
All right, it is unanimous of the 5 members who are present, and the motion passes. Okay, and new business. Eric, are we?
Agenda. You
Point
need
of-
the April
point of order.
28th.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes,
Go
of
back to
course,
the
yes,
hold.
April 28th, yes.
Sorry.
Oh, you know what, and before you even start, I forgot to say, because I was thrown off by public comment not happening, that we are being, this is being recorded, and this meeting is also being live streamed on HWCam. Okay, the minutes from April 28th.
Okay, it's a very small thing, but I think it's important to get it right. So in that meeting, I offered a comment that we needed to change the language in reference to the Hamilton-Wenham Human Rights Coalition versus the town committee and the town commissions. And in hindsight, all of those groups should have been named something so very different. But so the comment that I made at the time resulted in the accurate changing of the minutes from April 7th. However, in the new minutes from April 28th, there is still a sort of a typo, which is on page 3 of the minutes. It says, Ms. Seitzig points out the error on page 5, the reference to the Hamilton Wenham Human Rights Commission. That now should actually say coalition. That was the original error. So we need to fix that one to say commission only as it relates to the 28th minutes. The rest of it is fine and accurate. And the,
So, yep, yep,
and actually, now that I'm looking at it more carefully, I think that date of 3/17/22 is not right. Wasn't it 4/7 when all of that was discussed?
you're talking the next paragraph?
Yeah, the next paragraph.
I actually believe that you're correct, that that was discussed on 4/7, but we're referencing an earlier meeting, which is 3/17, I believe.
Can I check that really quick before?
Sure. So I'm going to just address the first part, because I worked a little bit with Mihaela on this. So in the first paragraph, I think Anna has a point, and it really is one word. It is that first word, the first time the word commission appears, it really should be coalition. And I believe that that's the only real change there in that. And then I don't really know exactly what you're trying to,
I'm just wondering that, I think it was all discussed on April 7th, March 17th. I think that the date is wrong. The date of the discussion, the
May
understanding.
17th or March 17th?
The date says March 17th, 2022. I think it should be April 7th. That was when we went back and had the whole conversation.
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Oh, boy.
So I might make a suggestion, which is that perhaps we hold these minutes and bring those back to Amy and Mihaela.
Okay, because I think we should make sure that that date is, I'm looking at the 3/17 minutes right now. Boy.
Do I need to make a motion to hold the minutes?
I don't know, but it can't hurt.
Okay. I move that we hold the minutes from April 28th, 2022, until further review is possible.
Second.
Second by Anna Seitzig. All right, Amy, are you there? Jen?
Yes.
Dana's yes. Anna?
Yes.
Julia?
Yes.
David?
Yeah.
Okay, and that is unanimous of the 5 members
We
present.
didn't need to take that vote, but I do think we should try and get this on the next agenda.
Yes, oh, I know, absolutely, it should be on the next agenda. Absolutely. Okay.
Sorry, Mihaela.
Yep, no, we'll get it done. Okay. Eric, are we going to we're going to do this in the order, we're going to start with athletic fees, is that correct? Okay.
Yeah, if we don't mind, we'll do this one,
Yeah,
and then we'll move
yeah, I thought we might,
these presentation up.
sure, absolutely. So we're going to start with the athletic fees.
Good evening, and thank you. I have Craig Genualdo with me here this evening, our athletics director. Kind of going back and forth on this. I wanted to bring this memo forward a tiny bit earlier than usual because we generally run into a jam at the beginning of school waiting for fees to be set, trying to get families signed up, and then having to go back and change fees and refund money. So we wanted to have this discussion earlier rather than later this year. And this is also something that was discussed during the most recent Capital and Finance Subcommittee meeting and approved by that group. And essentially, in a nutshell, during the budget process in the fall, this committee approved the increase of the user fee from 25% to 35% for next school year. We worked with Craig and Capital Finance and Vinny, and trying to get towards a tiered approach so that we can better balance the fee structure while also reducing them a little bit anyway, not as much as we would like right now, but I think we can further reduce them if we stick with this model for right now. So if you look at the top of this model, in the top section here, start to look at 3 tiers. Hockey on its own tier, it's the most expensive sport we have. They ran about $1,400 per player this year, both boys and girls. And then the next 2 most expensive sports have been gymnastics and football. We put them on tier 2, not quite as much overall, but still high cost sports. And then all other sports went on tier 3. And then work to make the numbers match. As you can see, it costs us just under $600,000 to run the athletics program. This is just the student side, the student busing, rental side. It doesn't include the other $230,000 in administrative costs, supplies, and things like that. So basically what we're trying to do with this process of tiering is getting to that number while also trying to reduce the fees. If you look at the top group of tiers, hockey would be looking at next year $1,000 per player instead of $1,400. Gymnastics and football will be $700. They were, I think, they were $1,200 for football. Yeah, it was a little over $1,000 for football. And, then all the others would be $480 per sport. The way this works is by taking advantage of something built into the budget called the user fee offset. That is a 10% amount that we have built into the budget to offset user fees so that when we kind of put our contribution in, that reduces the overall amount that families have to contribute. The family cap offset is another 10% that we have built into our budget that allowed us to discount rates for families and combinations and things like that. I'm proposing, along with Craig and Capital Finance Committee, to be able to bring these 2 fees together, which would bring in about $271 in revenues towards the overall cost. This also reduces all of the sports across the board. There are, I think, 2 sports that have a little bump up, one of them being track off the top of my head, but the rest of them are reduced significantly over next year's costs. And we think it's a first step in a number of steps to begin to reduce overall athletic fees in the district. I think we're going to have to get creative in some ways. I think we're going to have to work with the boosters to see if we can start to build some funding towards almost a third offset, if you will. But right now, this is what I think is a first good step into reducing fees overall for each sport. Gives kids a little better of an opportunity to be able to participate. And it's also worth noting that will continue the scholarship program. We have not touched any of that money that was built into the budget, which is about approximately $15,000, I believe. So that money will remain for scholarships when families need them, and then continue to run our programs in the same ways that we have.
Eric, can I just pause for 1 second and make sure that I want to check in with Amy to make sure she can hear you. Amy, can you hear? Yes? Okay, excellent.
I've never been accused of having an indoor voice, ever. So I just think this is an opportunity for us to take a step that I think is important. I think it's something that we need to continue to examine over time when we look at the budget process for '24 and '25 and continue to chip away at it to make it more equitable and give more kids opportunity to participate in sports.
Okay. People have questions?
May I make a comment first?
Absolutely.
Just on the thoughts of Capital Finance in favor of this were twofold. First, it reduces fees relatively close to across the board. Like Superintendent Tracy said, There were 2 sports that went up slightly, but everybody else went down. The other thing it gives us is it gives parents a way to predict. Basically, they're going to know from day one what their sports are going to cost throughout the year. So that will allow them to budget for that, to determine if they need to apply for scholarships or not, and they'll know what the cost is. They won't have to wait till a week before. So we're hoping that in addition to reducing costs, making the cost more predictable will make it easier for students to participate and make the whole system a little more equitable.
Excuse me.
Thank you.
Can I just jump in?
Absolutely.
Just in case it's in your mind or on your head, this chart right here shows what we would project our fees to be next year by sport. And one of the comparisons, gymnastics would be $872 next year instead of the $700 we're proposing with this new tier system. And then, excuse me, things like cheerleading be slightly higher. Football would be $1,036. So there's some really good decreases in opportunities for kids.
Okay. All right, you ready for questions?
Yep.
Okay. Anna?
Actually, so one of my questions has to do with hockey, and the boys' hockey team is integral to our sports, but the girls' hockey program is co-opted with Marblehead, I want to say. Is that right? So would the fee remain at $1,000 for both boys and girls' hockey, not impacted by any sort of co-opting that we do with anybody else? Is that right? Okay. And then it looked like the fee for hockey would have been $13.25 if we don't make this change, so they're also seeing like a 3.25 kind of decrease. Okay. I know last year that there was a particular complaint about the girls' hockey fee relative to what the co-oping was, so I think that this in particular is, for that sport, is really good. And then I just want to understand the family cap. And I feel a little validated because I think we had a conversation about this last year, and I was pushing to say we need to get rid of that family cap. We need to put it back in. So you're saying that will now go away, and if a parent or a child has, is it 4 sports, they still they pay for the sport no matter what. There's no discount after 3 or 4 sports like it has been. Is that right?
Correct.
I support that fully. Hooray.
Just wanted to note for the committee, the complaint, we also received a complaint about girls hockey, and they're doing a co-op with another community, why they had to pay the fee. There was actually a case, an equity case that was at Pentucket a few years back that basically pointed us in the direction of making sure to equalize the male and the female sports that are like sports, no matter what, whether they're in a co-op or not. So it's really comes down to federal law.
Yeah, I remember talking about that, so, great.
You want me to read the motion?
Although we still might have questions and discussion, but yeah, let's put the motion out there.
I move to accept the changes in the athletics user fees for the FY23 school year as presented by Superintendent Tracy.
Second.
Second by Jen Carr. All right. Thank you, Julie. I appreciate that. All right. Does anyone else have further discussion, other questions? I do have one. Go ahead, David.
I just want to say, just to follow up on Anna, so you're saying now there's, as of next year, if we adopt this, that there won't be the, if you play sports fall and winter, that you're paying the user fee for spring as well now, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, we're trying to use that extra 10% to reduce the overall cost
Yeah.
for kids.
I know this doesn't relate to FY23, but it does relate to our most recent meeting with the ski team. Do you have a sense of where on the ski team would fall on the tiers?
Yeah, go ahead. Go for it, yeah.
Sorry, I didn't want to get in trouble. So for next year, the ski team would cover the cost completely. In the future, I would see them as very similar to gymnastics and be in tier 2.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, anyone else? Amy? No? Okay, it looks like we're ready to vote. And we are doing a roll call vote because we have a virtual member. We'll start with you, David Polito.
Yes.
Julia?
Yes.
Anna?
Yes.
Dana's a yes. Jen?
Yes.
David Frankel?
Yes.
Yes. Amy?
Yes.
Amy on a strange delay, but she's a yes.
So,
Okay.
can you not hear me?
No, we actually could hear you. You're just sort of not quite in, you're not quite in sync. You're like, your visual's ahead of your audio. Okay.
Got it.
All right. Thank you very much.
Was that unanimous? I just want to write it down. Okay.
What was that? Yes,
That
that was
was
unanimous and the motion passes. Thank you. All right, and now we're going to talk about school lunch, correct?
Yes.
Wendy?
Invite Wendy Ning.
All right,
the
Wendy,
podium.
come on up.
You all set, Wendy?
All set.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to talk right into the mic or bend it toward you so we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Next. So this is just an overview of our department and how many staff we have at each school. So it's just a quick overview. Next, please. So what's unique about this year? Everyone has free meals regardless of your income status. There's a new director. There's no staff. When I started, I had no staff, and I actually ran the high school for a few weeks by myself with, pulling principals and Eric Tracy to come help serve. So that was fun. We had major supply chain issues, which means that if we ordered about 100 cases, only 50 would show up. And there's a dramatic increase in the cost of supplies and materials. Next. This is a general overview of how many meals that we've served so far. You can see that Winthrop is our highest serving school, followed by the high school. And so far, we've served 120K meals up until April. Next. This is a quick visual. You can see that the red is this year. There was a big drop because of vacation, but you can see prior years before COVID, the numbers of meals served, which is about 5,000 a month. So this is a comparison of the meal reimbursements throughout the years. Prior to COVID, the reimbursement for all meals served was about $85K or $65K. So far, just in meal reimbursements, we've received $545K. This is an overview of the chart of the reimbursement rates. Because this year was free, instead of following the national school lunch reimbursement rate, we actually followed the seamless summer option. And in the fall, the reimbursement rate was $431, but since they change every January, the reimbursement went up to $456. And I believe our free and reduced rate in this district so far is around 10%. So this is a quick cost analysis of the most popular meals. At the elementary schools, the kids love breakfast, which is every Tuesday. And the secondary and high school, they love popcorn chicken. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it's so tiny.
I love popcorn.
But it got cut off a little. But the total food costs for the breakfast meal would be $262, and the total cost for the popcorn chicken meal is $213. And this is just meals. It's not including labor. So the pay lunch equity is something that comes from DESE. It is basically a guideline for us to make sure that when we make our meal prices, we are not below what they set. In order for us to cover costs relating to food, labor, and supplies. So for next year, the pay lunch equity is $3.31. So anything under that would be in compliance to DESI's standards. So yeah, next. So the final calculation, so if food cost is $2.62, labor cost is $2, the total to create that breakfast meal for a student would be $4.62. So I am recommending our meal price be $3.50, and there is a $1.12 deficit, but it would be supplemented through a la carte sales, because the amount of money we made in a la carte so far, since up until April, is $137K. So my recommendation for meal prices is $3.50.
All right.
And those are the meals we served. And I don't know if you saw this, but that was the April Fool's meal that I served at the top, and it was ice cream and a sunny side up egg. But it was an ice cream bowl, mashed potatoes, gravy, and popcorn chicken. And apparently the kindergartners did not like that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So Eric, did you have anything to add, or shall we just move to questions?
No, I think we can move to
Okay.
questions. I just want to be clear that the lunch price being recommended, $3.50, does not cover all of our costs, because we're, again, trying to keep lunch prices low for kids. We feel like if, Wendy and I talked about raising them up to $3.75 or $4, we feel like that starts to edge kids out from getting lunch. One of the advantages we all saw this year was with free lunch was so many more kids were eating lunch and taking advantage of it. We want to be able to leave that window open for kids, so we feel like $3.50 is reasonable, and we can cover the shortages by the a la carte sales of chips and beef jerky and things like that that are kind of extra outside of the lunch program.
Okay. Jen?
Were the prices calculated using this year's number of meals or previous years? Because I assume that now that lunch is no longer free, those numbers are going to drop back down in terms of students eating lunch.
It was calculated looking at previous years and this year. So prior to COVID, the lunch price was $3.25. And then trying to get the average, I came up with $3.50.
Anna?
Thank you for this. I love the pictures of lunch because I get the worst descriptions of what is actually served. I just want to make sure I understand what you were saying about the pay lunch equity, because the slide says the price must be equal to or above, but I could have sworn verbally you said equal to or below.
So if it's equal to or below, it's in compliance, which is what it
So
said.
the slide says meal price must be equal to or above to be in compliance, which is the opposite of what you're saying.
Not in compliance.
Yeah, not in compliance. Sorry, I mixed my words up.
So if it's too low, it is out of compliance?
Non-compliant.
It would be, yeah.
Yes.
If it's $3.20, it's
It would be
non-compliant.
incompliant, not compliant.
I don't think that's a word. but-
Non-compliant.
Yes, non-compliant is the word. Okay, so because our total aggregated meal cost is $4.62, we are in fact above, which puts us in compliance. A smiley face for us. Okay, I just want to make sure, because I heard the incompliant, and I was like,
Yeah,
did
it
too.
took me a second too, but I think she meant it as
Got it.
non-compliant.
Yeah.
And then sort of related, I believe that the universal meals through the Mass Legislature has been adopted by the House. I think it's still in the Senate, and I know that we submitted a resolution. So depending on whether or not that actually goes through, would then we sort of wipe away all of this to just get everything reimbursed and say thank you to the state for just giving everyone lunch? So this amount would be in the event that that bill actually fails.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. Or just takes a long time.
I have a question. When, do we know how many lunches how many people qualify for free lunch?
The free and reduced percentage in our district right now is around 10%.
Okay. And do you anticipate that would be the same going into the new school year?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Other questions?
Well, I guess I do have one other question. Do you anticipate the same kind of staffing challenges to start next year, or do you feel like that element of the department is stabilized?
I am pretty confident that it's more stabilized now and will be in the fall.
Okay.
We're asking, do you need us to help come serve meals?
Have hairnet will travel.
I believe one of our members who's already does serve meals.
Yes, Amy. She goes to Winthrop.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you very much.
I've learned some really great recipes.
Excellent. Okay. All right,
Is the
we need a-
motion-
we need a motion, yes.
Yep.
You didn't write it out for me this time. Okay. I move that we set the FY 22-23, no.
Yep.
Yes?
Yep.
No,
I move that we set the FY 22-23 lunch price to $3.50.
second by David Polito. Okay, is there any further discussion? Okay, we're going to go around this way. David Frankel.
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Dana's yes. Anna?
Yes.
Julia?
Yes.
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
And that is unanimous unanimous, all 7 of us are here. And the motion passes. Thank you so much, Wendy.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you.
Okay, now this, I think, Eric, is where we were going to rearrange a
Just
little
gonna
bit.
move, yep. We could ask Maureen Smith. Maureen Smith to come up.
So if
To the
the
event.
committee is willing, we're going to, just because Lauren Smith is here and with CPAC, right? We are going to just adjust a little bit and let them give their presentation so that you don't have to be here quite so late.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, Lauren, welcome.
Hey, well, thank you for having me. As Dana said, I'm Maureen Smith. I'm the preschool and elementary special education coordinator. I'm here tonight speaking for the Student Services Department on behalf of Stacy, who was unable to be here tonight. So she did write down some things that I'm going to read so I can be clear in expressing her gratitude and sentiments tonight. So thank you to Becky Bonenfant for attending the school committee this evening to discuss the continued work of the Special Education Parent Advisory Committee this year. We want to thank Becky and Lindsay as co-chairs, as well as all of the board members for their work this year. Special thanks to Becky for her organization and focus on bringing workshops and resources to our families. I also want to add that we truly recognize the time and the effort that goes into maintaining a successful, active CPAC in the district. And Becky and Lindsay have made such a tremendous commitment to partner with us over the past few years to support our students and families. And Stacy, I know, is so appreciative of their work over the past couple of years. We would also like to thank Officer Joe Academia for reaching out to the district in support of our students with disabilities and his work this year on establishing the Autism Disability Outreach Program in our communities. We are grateful for the commitment to the awareness and acceptance of students with autism. During Autism Awareness and Acceptance Month, Officer Academia organized a fundraiser in collaboration with Five Sons Pizza in the Hamilton and Wenham Police Departments. Thank you to Five Sons for their partnership and generosity, and thank you to all of the officers who spent time delivering pizzas to families throughout the communities, as well as all of those who participated by ordering from Five Sons. With the fundraiser, they raised over $2,500 and donated to CPAC, and the goal is to use those funds to positively support students with disabilities and their families and caregivers. So with that said, I can turn it over to Becky, and she'll talk about what she's planning for the remainder of the year.
I have a few slides just to
Yep.
give a visual.
Putting them right up, 1 second.
Awesome. My name is Becky Bonifant. I help chair the Hamilton Wenham CPAC. Just to introduce or reintroduce anyone to the CPAC, it's the Special Education Parent Advisory Council. Each district in Massachusetts legally has to have one. It really has two intents. It advises and it educates. So really the advisory role, and to back up a step, we sit under the school committee, and the advisory capacity, I work closely with Stacy. We meet regularly to kind of talk about the special education programs in the district, and then also for planning purposes of what the CPAC is going to be rolling out. We tend to meet monthly, sometimes twice a month if it, necessitates. The education piece of it, really it's in help to counsel any parents. Our names are on the district website. People reach out to me constantly with questions about how to access, whether it's IEPs, 504s, the questions run the gamut. So whether anyone has a question. Otherwise, I poll at the beginning of the year of what people want to hear, and then use that for my planning across the year to bring parents what of special education they want to hear. So I'm going to, in the next slide, talk about what kind of happened in the back half of the year. I was here in the beginning of the year, so I'm going to focus on kind of what happened in 2022. Maureen mentioned this a little, but Joe had come to me when the Autism Disability Outreach Program was really in its infancy, as well as other administrators and educators. CPAC was then really happy to have been the rollout of that program. So Joe and two other officers had come to the CPAC meeting in January to officially roll out this program and open the enrollment for any parents who wanted to participate. Second, in January, Stacy had joined to talk about changes to the student services budget for 2022-2023. In February, Eric had joined us to talk about the SOA grant, since it had a strong component with special education and wanting buy-in participation for the survey component. Also in the February meeting, CPAC had a change to its bylaws. The Attorney General had ruled that the CPAC did not need to follow public meeting law anymore, so I needed to change the bylaws just to kind of be in compliance with that. In March, the representative from DESE had come as a part of the district audit, just to have a parent orientation, and allow anybody who has questions about the process to ask them there. Then in May, the CPAC was actually interviewed as a part of that audit as well. Lastly, in May, we had a presentation from Lee. Lee is one of our district psychologists. She had joined us. It really was a follow-up to a presentation I had last spring on executive functioning, which was really well received. So it was meant to continue the conversation on executive functioning and really focus on questions that parents had had. So a Google form went out, and then she kind of tailored her content to address any questions people had in executive functioning. And then next. Upcoming plans. To finish off this year, we're going to be having a meet and greet. It's going to be over Zoom for anybody who wants to come have more information about the CPAC. After that, positions will open up for voting for the next year. And then future presentations, Maureen mentioned the money that the CPAC received as a result of the fundraiser from the police department and Five Sons, which I'm incredibly grateful for. I had a little bit of money before. I had no access to getting more money, so I didn't spend the money that I had. And I really focused on presenters I could get for free. It limited me, especially when we tried to do bigger things like autism awareness, and bringing speakers into the high school to talk about students. I was charged fees for them, fees that I couldn't afford. Now I can. So this money that I'm receiving from Five Sons, I'm incredibly grateful for, because I think it's gonna fund me to do whatever I want for really the entire year. So the opportunity for education to parents that's coming in 2022, 2023, I'm really excited about. So I think what is going to happen is a few things to start. We actually, it's based in Watertown, it's the Autism and Asperger's Network. They have a panel of speakers who professionally, it's people who are on the spectrum themselves and come and talk about their experience. So what we're looking to do is have someone on the younger side come into the school to talk, and then that same night, we'll have a separate, it's a mother-son duo who come and talk to families about their experiences. So the money from Five Sons and Joe's program is gonna go to that. We also were approached by that same network. They've received a grant to roll out an Autism 101, Autism 102, and an IEP review that they've asked us to be a part of. And we have said we've definitely been interested in participating in that. So those are some things that I'm looking forward to. And I resoundingly got feedback of kind of not doing enough in April. So I think that what's coming next year for autism awareness, again, I'm really excited about. I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has about what's going to happen in CPAC in this year and what's coming next year.
Thank you, Becky.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions?
First of all, thank you for everything that you do and how hard you work and how emotionally important it is to everyone in the district, so thank you formally. Your comments about money, though, maybe this is more of a Vinnie question, is there anything that prevents us from including an allocation to the CPAC, not in this year's budget because it's already passed, but moving forward? I think that Becky's point about hiring speakers, when we're begging for people to speak, you often don't get the best quality. And is there anything that prevents the school committee from allocating, say, $10,000 towards speakers' fees in the fiscal year '24 budget?
In our own general budget?
Yeah, could we fund the CPAC so we're not? I mean, I love the Five Sons fundraiser, but it's within our power. There's nothing legally that prevents us from allocating to the CPAC.
Right.
Huh? How about that?
Thanks, Anna.
Other questions? I do just want to let the committee know this evening we will be looking at liaisons, and one of the many liaisons we'll be assigning this evening is a liaison to the CPAC. So that was helpful that you gave a little preview of how many meetings that might, that person might be trying to engage with.
Yeah, I would look forward to working with somebody.
All right.
All right.
Thank you. I really
Thank you.
appreciate
Thank
it,
you,
both
Thanks
of
for
you.
including me.
Thank you, Maureen.
Okay, so for those of you following along on the agenda, we would be back up now to new business letter C, Superintendent's Entry Plan, and that's going to be to Mr. Tracy.
All set?
Okay.
Hi again, thank you. And I wanted to at least give you an overview. There are two reports presented on tonight's agenda. They are lengthy, they are deep, and they outline the work that we have ahead of us, I think, in some of the planning. So the first one, the Superintendent's Entry Plan Report. When I first started the position back in October, there was a request actually in November meeting to do an entry plan. Part of that entry plan was, the outline of the entry plan was presented to the committee, accepted, and then as I progressed through the school year, I was able to put together this report that outlines some of the things I found as I moved up into the superintendency from the principalship. The second one is the final district goals report for the goals that we set last year for our district this year. and it outlines our work towards those goals. And my hope tonight is to try to dovetail those together for you. And really, I would ask that you take time to review these documents deeply. As we move forward, we'll build this kind of process towards strategic planning and creating a vision for our district, something that is sorely needed. So with looking at the reports, immediate attention, things were outlined in the superintendent's report for entry plan, and there were 4 main things that came up. Communication was imperative. That was the first message I got before I even started. We were able to sort communication out fairly quickly, and most recently by ending with updating of the website. Rebuilding community connections. As I met with different community groups through the budget process, I learned that there were a number of scars, if you will, between the community and the school department, and I've spent many nights on the last 8 months working with individual groups, from boards to financial committees to just individual chairs, town managers, town administrators, to try to work on rebuilding those relationships and helping them to understand what we're doing by being more transparent. That was one of the goals that Vinny and I set at the beginning of the budget season, to be as transparent and open as possible. And I think we accomplished that with public presentations and feeding everything we did to both communities, the town managers, town administrators, and their respective boards. Visibility in our schools and community, it's been a pet peeve of mine for 9 years, actually 8 years as the principal of the high school, that I felt like our district was small enough where we should be able to see the superintendent at least once a week. So I had to put my money where my mouth was and make that happen, and it's been a great experience for me to be able to make a stronger connection with teachers and with students, and it's nice to be able to go into elementary schools where kids generally don't know who the superintendent is and have them say, "Hey, Mr. Tracy, how are you today?" Or, just to kind of say hi and just feel comfortable with me being in the building and in their classrooms. And then literacy was something we set as a goal last year, but it was really important because of the perceived losses of COVID and trying to really recover from what we know was an abbreviated school year the previous year, actually a year and a half. So those were the immediate attention items. And then there were some themes that emerged that I think were important to publicly talk about. Learning gaps were identified early on. If you go into our SOA plan, our Student Opportunity Act report that was submitted, there were a number of learning gaps that were very clear just by looking at some of the data sets available. Specifically, English language learners and former English language learners, students with disabilities, high-need students, and economically disadvantaged students in this district. There were large gaps that we reported to the state. And there's realistically, some of those gaps also helped us to identify a divide between students with disability and those who are not identified with a disability. That's an important thing for us to focus on as we move forward in curriculum development, deepening in our instructional practices, and developing stronger assessments. There was a clear request from students, parents, and staff to return to a more academically challenged and focused environment. I feel like COVID really dumped the cart, if you will, and some kids were in, some kids were out, and some kids were in this program and some kids were in that program. I think people really feel like they want to get back to the root of school and really get into the kind of the solid academic environment that we've been known for. We found early on through walkthroughs that there was an equity issue when examining classroom materials and opportunities, specifically K-5, pre-K to 5. And it was really, it's honestly a lack of leadership from the instability in the district, and that's something we were able to fix, as you know. Jen Clifford wrote a grant that was originally, I think, $80,000 to get materials for K1 and 2. As we learned that the state had more money to offer, she rewrote them and asked for more money to pay for it, so she was able to get almost $160,000. And we have 32 pallets of materials coming for our K-5 students in every single school, so every student will have the same experiences in all of our elementary schools. lack of long-term vision in the district. This is really, again, a byproduct of instability and leadership. It is an imperative, I think, for us to be able to stabilize this and to use our strategic planning process to develop a vision that we can continue to work for, and more specifically to create core values that we can use in our discussions and in our finance, in our planning for budgeting, and in just examining programs for our district. Like, what do we believe in for our core values? So that'll be some of the work coming forward out of this. And then we were continuing to see dysregulation in student body. Part of the initial observations that we saw were a lot of the younger kids did not have the opportunity to be in school. So a kindergarten, a first grader, and even some of our second graders were not in school classrooms, traditional classrooms. So they now had to learn how to be in school and how to function in the school building, how to go to the bathroom, how to go to different places, how to move around in the classroom. So teachers spent a lot of time in the beginning of the school year working on dysregulation all through the district, not just at the lower levels. This still continues with some students, and some of it is social emotional related. We've seen a tremendous increase in number of kids that have been hospitalized for longer periods of time, serious mental health hospitalizations, and that's an important piece of our kind of forward-looking planning. And then when you're looking at the building of this strategic planning, it's important to know that we now have a number of really strong data sources that now have identified the issues, can really triangulate some of the issues, and we'll be able to use them to build the strategic plan, long-term vision, and then set our core values. And those include the equity audit that's coming up. That will be an important document. I have seen previews of that, and there is a lot to digest in that. The newly adopted portrait of the graduate is an important piece of the puzzle. Superintendent's entry plan report, which you have tonight. The 2022 State of Our Facilities, School Facilities report that was delivered earlier in the year in February. All the newly collected data that we have in literacy. And now that we've been able to actually put it onto a computerized platform, we have now made it much more efficient to access for teachers. Looking at MCAS data, AP data, ACT data, so that we can find those other gaps within our programs. And one of the things that came up initially in the conversations of the equity audit was, when you look at data, do you break it out into subgroups? And across the entire district, the answer was no. So that's an important opportunity for us to explore and to get more deeply into. And then the SOA report is also another data source for us. Attendance data, discipline data, and then any social emotional data that we can get through our student study teams. We'll be able to bring all of that together and as we work towards strategic planning. To do that, I've signed a contract with Panorama. Panorama is an online data collection site that allows us to take all of these data sources and start to add in the literacy data, the attendance data, social emotional data into one place, so we have a picture of each of our students in the district, and we can more easily examine the data instead of wasting time organizing the data. If you go back to the fall, we wasted a lot of time organizing data, and this is not a negative against anybody, it's just all we had. You know, we were trying to fill a dump truck with a beach sand pail, and you know, our teachers, our staff, and our literacy people pulled it off, did a great job with it, and now we've been able to move this to an online platform where we can upload the data, and it visualizes it for our teachers so that we can immediately look at individual kids and then develop responses. It'll also integrate with our student study teams that will allow us to make connections along the way for a child. So if a child gets recommended to student study team, maybe having an issue in a particular area, say social emotional, the student study team would have the discussion, and then somebody on that team would be assigned to certain roles on behalf of this child. We now can document that in Panorama and track that through Panorama, so it gives us an opportunity to really move forward in our efficiencies and also how we examine what kids will do. I think it's important that the curriculum design and planning process pre-K to 12 remain fluid as we work towards alignment using information gathered when we review and better understand all of the artifacts I listed. I think there's an important study process that will occur as we go through jump into the strategic planning process, and this will be important to keep in mind. It's also a full examination of student gaps outlined in our SOA report so that we can guide future adjustments to curriculum, instruction, and assessment. And then curriculum at all grade levels, both grade level and vertically, must be purposefully designed to meet the needs of all of our kids. I could not stand here today and say that that is happening with fidelity, and it's important for us to look at that and to examine that, and then help our teachers to give them the materials they need and give them the things that they need in the classroom. It's a priority of my leadership team, our leadership team, to stay focused on the multi-tiered system of support. It has to remain at the center of our work. It's an important tool that can help address inequalities while continuing to commit high standards for all students. Intervention should be earlier on the pre-K to 12 progression to avoid unnecessary shifts of funding as a reaction. Currently, we react after the fact. It costs us more money over time. This implementation, to do it properly, can take 4 to 7 years. So we have a year under our belt, and we will continue to grow this process, and you'll see when we present the draft goals next meeting that we will continue to use that as the center of our focus. We must remain committed to the work of equity and inclusion while also continuing to learn the ways to actively work together, both with our schools and our communities, to continuously improve our work towards anti-racism. We must face the results of the equity audit head on and use this information to improve our district. We also must continue to meet the requirements of the Mass State Building Administration so that we can continue into the process of hopefully building a new elementary school. And I think there's an important sense of urgency that we must keep in the front of our minds about our growing list of facilities deficiencies. It can no longer be ignored. So some of the next steps, we'll review and refine define, and develop the district goals for next school year. We'll present drafts at the next meeting. We intend to take advantage of 3 retreats over the summer, including the school committee retreat, to be able to refine the deliverables and the action steps that will be connected to those goals so that we can start the school year with everybody in this room, leadership team, teachers, all on the same page. We have to develop the process for the execution of strategic planning process. I have signed a contract with TLA, Teaching Learning Associates. They're a local group. They will help guide the process with us, very reasonably priced, but also they will do focus groups and things that we need to be able to dig more deeply into what people think in our community. We need to reach deeper into our communities. Continuing to examine and support Tier 1 options in our classrooms. Currently, there are a number of Tier 1 options that happen outside of our classrooms. We have made that shift this year. It started to make that shift. We need to continue to keep kids in classrooms as much as possible so that they all get the same experience. There will be times when kids will be pulled from classrooms for support or for integration, so that will still happen, but we want to try to reduce that and give kids the opportunities that every other kid has in the classroom. And again, as I said, focus on facility improvements both within our buildings and our fields. We've been able to make a number of improvements recently. One of them, a simple improvement, is cleaning up the outsides of our buildings. If you go to every building, we made sure they were mulched and cleaned and they looked good. We are part of the community and should represent the community as such. Some other things are the ramp right over here that goes up to the back side of the building was in disrepair and basically not usable. That project has been completed. So we're making some forward progress on some really good, simple projects to get those done and out of the way so that we can move forward towards larger scale projects. We need to increase our focus on mathematics at the elementary level, and we'll do that as part of the same type of process we're using for literacy, we'll use for mathematics across next school year. We need to continue to renew and update our curriculum documents at the secondary level. This is an ongoing process. It never becomes a static process. Everything is in constant flux when you're looking at quality curriculum work. We will continue to purchase and implement available software or applications to make systems more efficient. Things like professional development can only be explained as dysfunctional when a teacher has to take more than an hour to sign up and get credited for something that should not take long at all. We are in discussions with a software company that does this work, that also integrates with our evaluation system to put the entire system online and make it much more efficient for everybody, especially our teachers, so they're not wasting time trying to keep up with their own professional development record keeping. We can manage that with them. These things would include data collection and warehousing, educator evaluation system, professional development tracking system and management, and I'm also looking for a workflow software for simple things like requesting a day off. When you request a day off in this district, it's a 3-part form that you fill out, you give it to your supervisor, they fill out, they send it to somebody else, and it could sit there for a week. It might not. Then that person signs it, and then it goes back to another person. Then that person might have it on their desk for a while, and your day off comes, and you don't know if you're approved or not. That is not appropriate. It's not something that we should be doing. So we're looking for online workflow management software so that we can keep it all in a workflow, and you get reminders to make sure you check up on this workflow and make the approvals, and everything's kept electronically. In all these reports that are coming forth, there is nothing that's insurmountable. Our consistent instability at the district leadership level has created a number of issues that can be rectified with a long-term commitment to stabilizing and supporting the realities pointed out in these reports. There is a lot of work to do, and it will take several years. I believe we have the people in place and the support of our communities to pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and to be a great school district. There will be difficult days ahead, but successful navigation of these difficult times will bring us to new and impressive heights that have not been reached in years. All in all, we must commit to developing a strong strategic plan and executing the plan without veering off course. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Wanted to clap.
I know, I do want to clap, I feel like.
Okay, so, yeah, I'm a little speechless.
I think I was trying to avoid an open discussion because
Yeah.
there's so much in these reports. I think it's good for us to
Yeah.
take some time to sift through it. We will have a meeting of all the leadership team on June 28th and really start to dig in with new members of our leadership team, current members of our leadership team, and work that through the summer with 2 other retreats that we'll be doing, and then the 4th retreat with this group. And I think by the time we get to the start of school, we'll really have a good, well-balanced document and direction to go in. There's a lot of information out there right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know I feel like I haven't fully digested all of that, and it feels like a great place to start for all of those conversations that are going to be happening. So,
Don't laugh at me.
I was not laughing at you. So I do want people to have an opportunity, but to comment, I guess. But I think the idea is that what I'm hearing from you is that we want to be really high level at this point, and that this is I don't know, maybe I'm mixing metaphors because I was saying it's foundational, which is low levels, I guess. So, all right, so anyone? David?
I could be good, because I...
Can you talk right into the mic, please?
Yep. Outside voice. I just want to begin with one thing that I really sort of like a common theme that I really see going on is the idea of cleaning up the non-educational work for administration and teachers so you can focus more time on the students. That's just an overall theme that I see going on here, and I think it's just the perfect direction to be going in, and really identifying, you know, we can't make more hours in a day, but how can we actually make our time more efficient? So I just really appreciate that, and love to, that's just an overall, theme. Excuse me, so very well done there.
I have a comment.
Julia?
I just have a comment. I mean, I can't believe it's been 8 months, only 8 months. And all of this work has been accomplished, and things are still going. But one thing that really stuck out to me was the constant referring to the work that we've done, and we're going to use it. So I know that a theme that came up in your entry report was the teachers felt they were inundated with initiatives, or the administrators, leadership team. But the thread through all of this is we're going to use these. We're going to use the results of the equity audit. We're going to use my entry plan. We're going to use the portrait of a graduate. We're going to use the facilities report. Like, all of these things are going to come together, hopefully, and we can learn from them, and they'll coalesce with the strategic plan, but we're also still pulling from them, which just, I appreciate it, because I know there's so many threads that we're trying to tie together, but this report really, to me, really gave me a good overview of everything that is going on, or has been going on, at least in the last 8 months, and the importance of, like you said, sticking with the work, even though, it's not going to take a year, like it's going to take a few years. So I really appreciated that. And me, I say this all the time, I always appreciate a proactive rather than a reactive approach, and I think that everything presented has been very much like, this is my vision, this is where we're going, rather than simply reacting to things being thrown at you. So thank you. Fantastic work.
Okay. Anna?
I'll try to keep my comments high level. I do have some specific questions about some of the things that were written, but I'll hold those for a second. I think the thing that strikes me is in all of these reports, I think you've sort of framed it well. There's some academic things that are, it's almost like the academic things are the easier fixes, right? And I'm looking at a line that talks about the creativity of the teachers. Part of the reason things were so disparate is because the teachers didn't have a common set of tools. But as a credit to them and their creativity and their determination, they said, well, you know what? If the district's not giving me this, I'm going to go out and figure it out. And I think it's important to pause there and notice that some of what we're now having to overcome because of that deficiency, I think it's good to say thank you to the teachers for doing that. But then on the flip side, it's sort of saying, well, it really shouldn't have to be, choose your own adventure by teaching, right? Like, that's not how this is supposed to work. So I think for me, I'm kind of seeing three big buckets of things. One of them are academic related things, integrated curriculum, looking at course offerings. I'm troubled by the AP scores and what's happening there, but I think that's sort of a deeper data point that I want to understand, because I put no stock whatsoever in rankings. Those are just manipulated garbage. But the AP tests are interesting because they're a national standard, right? It's the same test. And there's a real drop-off happening here, which is puzzling to me. And I think that there are some academic points to look to, but I like the fact that we're looking at ways to approach academic solutions in a more holistic way. One of the other things that strikes me too, though, are, I don't know what the word I'd use them, I guess climate and culture. And you're specifically calling out the middle school as a really problematic spot. And we have this opening at the middle school, and this is no knock on Craig Hovey, but the middle school is in a period of transition. And now it's been called out very significantly as a real weakness around an issue that's not academic, and I don't think is necessarily on the teachers. And so I'm really curious to see what happens when we try to address that issue, because it's not necessarily reading and writing, it's not facilities. I don't think it's that the teachers are, actively bullying or allowing bullying. Again, I don't think that's happening. So what's going on at the middle school that's producing this result? But I would put that into the bucket of community things, trust, communication, the town boards, things that are not necessarily even totally within the school's control. And then the last thing, and maybe this is because it's more of my professional expertise, but you have outlined so many new programs, particularly around software and data and use of data and, Panorama and centralizing time off requests and all these things. And I know this is the most unglamorous thing ever to say, but if we're gonna help the teachers focus more on the teaching, we have to hire people in central office to help support them to do that, because all of this data work, and I'm just thinking, for example, so Panorama is this great tool. We have all this data in it. Who at the district level is liaisoning with our Panorama rep to make sense of it? Like, that's a staff, going through it, I can see 5 or 6 different staff positions that are not teachers. People who help on the HR thing. Poor Vinny. We just have to say, Vinny needs the other staff that Vinny needs.
Yes.
But some of these new technologies require a person to drive them. And without that person to drive them, we're just going to spend money on contractors and software, and it's going to be this great integrated idea. So I feel like part of that community building is to explain that the district is still a, $43 million organization. It has people, it has staff. The teachers shouldn't have to do everything in the world, including code a new, program that allows them to take a half day off so they can go take their kid to the dentist. Like, that's garbage. We have to do better than that. So I'm really curious to see what happens next. I do have some specific questions. I don't know that now is the right time for them, but I think this is amazing, and the volume of words you've written is astounding to me, and I appreciate every single one of them. So thank you.
Thank you. Other people? David Frankel?
Yeah, no, it just seems like you've got a really good professional orchestration process going, and that will iterate through and really refine a plan that's well bought into. So I really am very enthusiastic about the way you're going about it.
Thank you.
All right. I guess I do want to say that David really said what I wanted to say, and thank you for articulating that. I really see that in the upper level that the systems, that the analysis of the systems and putting the new workflow systems are really important and key, I think, to making these changes. Right. Oh, Jen.
This is just a comment on the data and graphs, which I love, but I don't know what some of them mean. For example, the zones of growth composite scores. I mean, I see lines there and I see bars, but there's no explanation as to what that graph actually is measuring. So just a little more detail on what the data actually represents would have been very helpful for me.
Are you looking in the district goals report?
End of year report on the district goals, page,
Yep. 8.
yeah, 8, 10, 8 and 10.
Yeah, just above the zones chart is kind of an outline of the discussion.
Right, but it's restating the data, but it's not like I have no idea what those composite scores represent.
Mm-hmm.
And I have no idea what the actual growth percentiles represent. So just a little more detail on what those figures are actually showing
Sure.
would be helpful.
Yep.
Okay. Anna.
This is sort of a question for the both of you, but what would you like us to do with this next? Because I do have some questions. I mean, I would love to ask you about some elements of this report, but I don't want to spend 4 hours on this agenda item.
Right.
How would you like us to move forward on some of the concerns that have been raised? I can talk about them now, but is there another forum that we should do that? What do you want us to do with this amazing report, other than say,
Yeah,
good
it's a
job,
great
Eric, that's a nice report? Because that feels a little hollow to me.
Right. And
Read it first.
definitely want questions. I would say send me questions so we can put them in one place.
Okay.
Share them with the team, share them with you. and then get this. This stuff is all going to be public. It'll be out on the website, and we'll start to track and use these documents rather, my key phrase is going to keep being execution. I've been saying that since I started. Jen and I had this conversation about a big pile of reports I have in my office that have never been used for anything. So, that's kind of the key phrase behind this. So if the people in the committee can funnel me questions, I will put them in a document and get them answered more specifically. A good one is Jen's. How can we clarify what this particular chart means? We can take care of that without a problem. And then we can publish all that. We can also bring it back to another meeting, whatever the group's comfortable with.
Okay.
And also, I think, that was, I agree, like, to bring individual questions so that you can, and it's yet another opportunity to use your, to take that meeting with the superintendent and use your time. But also, it's going to be those retreats, some of which are just the leadership team with Eric, and then, that it's an opportunity there to provide, if we have questions from this, then the leadership team can hear that through you.
Yeah, and if I have the questions now, that at least helps us as we begin this process. So the long-term view of this is, we'll get through the school year. June 28th, I have a leadership team retreat with everybody on the team. All this documentation comes into the room with us. We start to dig through it. We start to develop a direction. As soon as we cross over into July, that contract will kick in with TLA to be able to start the data collection for the strategic planning process, which will include the documents I outlined, plus we're going to go even more deeply into other things. And then that will begin that process of goal development, strategic planning, long-term. And then as we get into August, we'll have 2 more meetings with the leadership team. I've broken them out into primary and secondary levels so that we can focus specifically. Their work is different in a lot of ways. And then in between that occurs the workshop for school committee, where we all have these documents, and I think these are just discussions that we need to charge through and dig through so that we can start to say, okay, what can we really focus on? There's a ton of information here that is not going to happen, be solved next year. No. But I think where we'll need to help, leadership team, school committee, we'll need to work together to prioritize that direction as we build a strategic plan. It's just a lot of just discussions between school committee and leadership team, and I'd like to be able to bring the 2 groups together at some point to really open it up. And I think it's important to have some of the perspectives just out publicly so that people understand the data and understand where we're coming from, and rather not just take it from me. But it's just this longer term setup, if you will, of gathering information that we can use to have our discussions, rather than saying, oh, what do you want to talk about? Well, I heard about this happening at such and such a place. So
well, to pick up on that, what you're talking about is a true shift in best practices from a district that is both reactive, it's a great word for it, but there's no way to ever build sort of these systems. And if you think of it in terms of systems architecture, right? Everything for the last several years, especially in COVID, has been just bandages everywhere, and teachers winging it through their own pure grit and tenacity and creativity. And I think that's true of all the district staff, but now we're sort of taking a pause to say, there's a better way to do this, but we have to build it, and that's not going to happen in 6 months, in 2 months. And I think a culture shift, if we're talking about shifting the culture of the middle school, developing a district-wide anti-bullying program, one line that I will call out, there was a line that teachers have a mindset that students who are ESL learners and students with disabilities need to be pulled out. Now you're fighting against ingrained cultural parts of the district that you're not going to solve in a workshop. Those things will take years to develop and get everyone on board with. So
it's also, I think, important to understand that if a teacher needed some support in that, they generally wouldn't have gotten it. So It's important to note that part of my role is going to be try to dig at those areas to say, why are teachers having trouble? Is it an issue with the curriculum, instruction? Is it an issue with knowledge? Understanding professionally what to do, and we find that out. just by having localized discussions. I mean, we just did another training for our DEI, and I sat in on a fantastic conversation with middle school teachers, and they were like, wow, I wish we could do this more often. Those opportunities have to be made available for teachers to have those discussions about where they work and the kids that they work with. So there's a lot of work to do, but I think the beauty of it is we really have a strong staff, and they've been holding it together, to put it bluntly. They've been literally holding it together by their creativity, their grit, and I think that's something that should be noted. And now I think we need to give them a little rocket fuel and help them to move the things forward so that they can focus on the reason they work here.
Well, the district shouldn't be successful because of the tenacity of individual teachers or pockets of teachers winging it. I mean, if we're really going to become a functional organization, again, Julia will love this comment, but like, you have to spend some time talking about your work and not just doing your work. Like, you have to build these processes in place. And I don't get the sense that the district has had the bandwidth, the will, the capacity to do that. And, especially in the last few years, teachers' hair has been on fire every minute of every day, every second. And I think it's really important to not be critical of that and recognize that I think even going back farther, had our teachers not been as incredible as they are, I think this district would have had these sort of, cracks breaking through much earlier. I think we're really at that proverbial moment where we can only plug so many holes at once, and now we're there. But if we hadn't had our staff, this district would have been in rough shape a lot sooner. And so I think it's really important to be explicit that the staff have held it together, and the leadership team, and to some degree the kids too. Like, we've all been through a lot, so it's nice to move forward. I will stop talking.
I think it's really important to understand that this process will be a little bit like grieving. There'll be people that are upset, angry. There'll be people that'll not believe what might be written in, say, the equity audit. So those moments for us, those difficult conversations, will help us in the longer run. But I think we're just going to have to face it head on. It's not something that we can turn away from. The beauty of this is if you take the entry plan report and you take the district goals report, they generally dovetail, and I think that will help us as we kind of build the rope and twist all of these things together. They all connect in different ways to support and strengthen our kids. So I think that's really the future vision.
Right.
Julia?
Just really quick. I was going to say something similar to that. How I plan on using these documents is sort of like a living document, like referring to them when you bring us the goals, and then really, even in the next budget cycle, like looking, like these are documents that I'm going to refer to pretty regularly, and definitely highlight and take notes. So I definitely, especially with this committee, and how really detail oriented we are, like, I don't think it will just be mentioned here, and then I'm going to, for me personally, in our calls, and so much work went into it. But I see it as a living document that we do have to process, but also everything we do in the retreat and all of the future planning, it's going to get like dog-eared, or I don't know what the digital equivalent is, but I see myself referring to it a lot in the future.
I think the other piece of it is the efficiency part. You have people like Vinny literally doing 4 jobs.
Right.
And that's been kind of this tension across the budget. Like, oh, you can't cut teachers unless you cut here, and it's really created a kind of a messy situation. So we're in a position to be able to rebuild some of that back, but we're a small organization. So the reality is the superintendent's going to have to do some of that work as well. It's just that's the nature of this beast here, and we get that. I think the team understands that. The addition of the Director of Teaching and Learning K-12, she's actually the point person for Panorama, so we do have that set up already. Those types of things are in place, and I think it's a matter of helping people to understand that, yeah, we have all kinds of things that we need to look at, but we can fix, these are fixable. These are not like, oh, this place is falling apart, we need to walk away. Are you kidding me? We have a really bright future given the people that we have in place and the things that we can do based on this information. I don't think it's ever been done in this district to this depth and level, and I think It's an important growth piece for us. And I think it'll build some trust within the community. I think getting that information out. We've just started putting the Portrait of the Graduate out, and it's going to push out into the community, and people initially are going to be like, what is that? And then it becomes, here's what it is. Somebody may say, oh, I was in Crosby's and on a window I noticed this, what is that? So those are discussion points that now you start to have about what's important in your school district.
Okay. Thanks. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. All right, that was a lot of information for us going forward.
The equity audit is twice as much, so.
Excellent. Looking forward to it. Okay, we already did see, okay, so next on the agenda is actually quite simple, but it required just a little explanation. So the agenda item is the amending the minutes from June 2nd. You'll see it actually has 3 exhibits. It is literally changing one word. Mihaela did some tremendous work, and Jen and Amy jumped in on this. So basically, this is just it's just an unusual situation because the minutes are so old and they have been posted for nearly a year. And then a citizen came forward and flagged that there was something that was not accurately represented in Mihaela, and went back, and I went back, and Jen and Amy went back, and in fact, it was his comment was accurate, that he was sort of misquoted. And so Mihaela did a little work about the way to properly do this, and what she, in looking at the public record law, one of the things she said is important is that if we do choose to amend these minutes, it will be important to keep the originally approved minutes on file so that if someone were ever to do any kind of public records search, that it would be clear that for nearly a year, the other minutes were the minutes of record. So, I mean, you can imagine some scenario when someone tries to say, well, I looked that up and I had this document and that. So anyway, there are 3 exhibits there. They're the original minutes, the marked up minutes, and then the minutes that would be the approved. Does anyone have any questions about it? I know that was a long-winded explanation for something that is literally one word. Okay. Julia, you look like you have a question.
No, I didn't. I'm trying to think of the motion.
Oh, okay, okay, excellent. So are you ready for that, or do you want?
Is it Exhibit 3 that we're voting to
Exhibit
approve?
3, I believe, would be the final version, right?
All right, I move to amend the school committee minutes from June 2nd, 2021, as amended in Exhibit 3 of this agenda.
Second. Second by Jen Carr. Is there any further discussion or questions? Okay. Let's go, I don't know, let's start with Anna. Go ahead.
I vote yes.
Julia?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
David Frankel?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Dana's a yes. All right, and the motion passes. It's unanimous, and the motion passes. Thank you all for that, and I learned a lot. Okay. Next up, is this you, Vinny? Oh, he left. All right. We're too quick for you, Vinny. Okay.
Might as well just stand here. So this should be quick. As you know, both our district treasurer position and our assistant district treasurer position are both annual appointments. They both need to be voted on by the school committee every year. This is Kevin and Catherine's first year with the district, but both of them have exceeded our expectations and beyond. So today we're simply just asking for their reappointment for the next fiscal year, which starts July and ends June 30, FY 2023.
Excellent. do we have a proposed motion for that, or do we have to?
I did email it
Oh,
to her, but.
did you give it to Julia, to Jen, or to Amy?
The both, I can just give me my computer because it's right up there.
Yeah, I don't have my
Amy-
email, I don't have my email up. but
Oh,
sure.
Amy, are you able to do that? You could do it.
Do you have it up, Amy?
She's got it.
She's got it, all right, we can have it from Amy. All right, Amy, go for it.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I move that the Hamilton Wenham Regional School District vote to approve the reappointment of Kevin Mers as District Treasurer and Catherine Lavoie as Assistant District Treasurer for the period covering July 1, 2022 through June 30, 2023, as recommended by the Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Administration.
Second.
Second by Anna Seizik. All right, are there any questions? Further discussion? Okay. All right, Julia, let's start with you.
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Dana's yes. Anna?
Yes.
I think we started with Julia. I was ready to go round again. Okay. And that is unanimous, and the motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, Eric.
Back to me.
You're up again.
I'll stay in the seat this time.
Okay.
Just a few things that are happening. It's getting just an exciting time of the year in the school district. There are lots of different events and activities, and I just wanted to highlight a couple of the big ones that are coming up. Actually, yesterday we had Seniors Helping Seniors, our annual opportunity for our seniors in high school to go out and help senior citizens in the communities and do various jobs. So they spent most of yesterday morning, usually between 8 and 12 or 1, doing various jobs for seniors around their houses, washing windows, raking leaves, weeding. There was even a group weeding the driveway at one point. So they, it's great. It's a great opportunity to get our kids out and connect them in the community. Tonight's a senior farewell. It's kind of the last hurrah for the group, where they get together. They hand out some awards. They also get their yearbooks. They'll do some yearbook signing, and they usually have kind of one last meal together in the CAF. I'm not sure what it was this year. It's usually Chipotle or something local, whatever the kids choose. Tomorrow night at 8 p.m. in the high school gym is the candlelight ceremony. This is the first time in 3 years we'll be running that ceremony. If you've never been, it's a great ceremony. It's very moving, really a nice ceremony to close out the year for our seniors. And then the culminating event, graduation on Saturday at 10 a.m. on the field. Of course, you're all invited. Special seating for a school committee in the front right side. It'll be outside under the tent. If you haven't seen the tent, there's a 160-foot tent erected on the field right now. Pretty exciting. We went and set up chairs yesterday afternoon, and Friday morning we'll move the chairs from the gym out to the field, so we'll have seating for almost 1,600 people. So, big event. It's a lot of fun, and as you know, it's early in the morning, so people can get their diplomas and get out to their parties and family events. This last week, I attended the Massachusetts Association of School Committees Spring meeting. It's an annual meeting that the Superintendent's Association puts on. The commissioner spoke. We did some work on their equity project, learning about their READY. It's called READY, R-E-D-I, the READY project, which is equity work that they are doing at the level of MASS, and then also that will filter down into superintendents to help to guide us as we do our equity work in our schools. The commissioner also spoke about, I think it's important to note that the state will be sunsetting pool testing and all related supports. So all of the extra nurses that we have, the pool testing will end on the last day of school, basically the end of June. So because we all get out on slightly different dates, but the end of school. We do have the ability, we actually ordered them today, to order testing for our summer programs. So we ordered almost 2,000 tests for our 2 summer programs that we'll have over a 6-week period, so that we can still give out the tests to families, and then after that, all of that will be sunsetted. The caveat being, we'll see what happens. And that's basically how the commissioner left it. We'll see what happens. We'll monitor the information, they'll let us know whether or not they'll be starting that up or leaving it at the sunset or changing it in other ways. There has been a few updates recently to DPH, but nothing dramatic, but they just wanted us to know that they're going to end the program. I also want to take a moment to thank Bill Martin and 7 other veterans who presented to our schools. They went to all 5 schools Friday. We did the rounds and made the visits. Great opportunity for our kids to learn about Memorial Day, and not just that we had a 3-day weekend. Even the littlest ones, the littlest learners had some fun questions, and they understood the idea of Memorial Day. I think they got an opportunity to see soldiers, as they said. Some of the kids were like, well, there's a soldier here. But I just think it's important for them to also make the connection and to bring the community into our schools. And then we talked about school lunches earlier, and I just wanted the committee to know I sent emails today to Rep. Balsito and Senator Tarr about supporting the free lunch program for next school year. You may know this, but there are 2 versions of free lunch financing, if you will. On the House side, they have $110 million in their version of the budget. On the Senate side, they have $10 million. So there is a huge gap for them to try to get to. So we've encouraged from Mass Association of Superintendents to reach out to reps and senators to be able to try to push this through and get some help. So I just wanted the committee to be aware that I did send emails today on behalf of the district, just to say we support it, and we had, both Senator Tarr and Rep. Balsito know our position. We do communicate with them quite often, so it's nice to have that support. And that's all.
Okay, thank you. I actually had just a quick question. So I guess I hadn't understood so the pool testing is ending before summer?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just making sure. All right. Anybody else have a question?
Yeah.
David?
Could you share with us your thoughts on, given that we're going to be rolling into winter, flying blind on infection rates, what are the things, or what, if anything, are you planning to do in regards to measurement, mitigation, whatever?
Yeah, so we're actually waiting for the state bid list right now. The state in their usual fashion said we'll bid out things like testing. I'll use that as an example. The take-home tests that they're giving us free now, they said we'll bid those out so that you can just buy them directly. So school systems will need to keep that in mind. We do have some of that set aside still in ESSER funding, but that will run out very quickly. We're also looking at costing out air purifiers for our classrooms. Again, that goes on the state bid list. They run right around $300, $400 a piece, and then the thing you have to be careful of is the extra filters. You need to replace the filters annually on some of these models, some of them twice a year. So we're looking at that as another option. And then Dave and I have had some discussion about CO2 monitoring, so we've asked Tom to look a little more deeply into that. I think, whatever tools we can take advantage of without pool testing. I think pool testing was our #1 tool that was functioning well for our district. I think we were probably one of the earlier adopters for pool testing. And I think it just kind of helped us along the way. Now that we have so many cases, we're not testing as many people as we have. So those are basically directions we're looking right now. And that'll, those are things that could change in the fall, depending on where COVID goes. I don't see it going away. I think my opinion is we're into this kind of endemic mode that we're going to have to start to learn to live with, but we should also continue to look at tools that give us the opportunity to keep our kids and our teachers in school. That's the goal, keep kids and our teachers in our classrooms.
Anybody else? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, committee reports. Capital Finance, I think we
covered it.
We covered it already. That was the athletic fees we talked about. Policy?
So I threw out an email to try to get a meeting on the books. Dorothy Presser, who we sort of need to meet, has been on vacation until today. So I was going to give her a day to check her email, and then I will, if you're listening, Dorothy, I'm going to nudge you, because we do need to meet on a number of things and get that committee going. So I'm hopeful still for a next week meeting, assuming Dorothy can make it. If not, we'll continue to schedule it. But we're waiting on Dorothy, and then we will get back to work. And I will just note that, Vinny, I saw your email about the finance things, and the committee can decide what to do, but policy is at a good sort of stopping point. So there's something that says we couldn't start with the finance policies in general. So I want to get Dorothy, we just need to have a meeting to talk about it and see where we want to pick up next. So
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Negotiations, we are meeting on Monday. I don't think I have anything else to say.
So enthused.
That's it. Okay, moving on to the chair's report, I would like to, well, we're going to do a whole bunch of liaisons. I guess the only other thing I have is that we've talked about it a lot, and I'm already received 2 evaluations, and that doesn't include mine, which I did turn into myself, so I've really turned it, so we've had 3 already. So I'm hoping that the evaluations, you guys will be ready to get those done. And let me know if you have logistical problems. I didn't help Julia with hers, but she figured her logistical problem out herself. Okay. So I'm going to read to all of you. I have a whole list of liaisons that we need, so I want to read them just so you have a sense of what they all are, so that you can be thinking of all the liaisons that we need to do, so that, so that you don't get really excited about the first 2 and then realize there's a whole bunch more. Okay, so these are liaisons that we're going to need. We need 1 school committee member to basically just be the contact person and the go-to. It doesn't mean that you don't need to attend every single thing that happens with this, but just we need to have somebody that's the designated liaison. So this is what I have on my list. You guys let me know if you think I missed something. So each one of the schools, so Bucher, Cutler, Winthrop, then 1 person for the middle and high school combined. Hamilton Select Board, Hamilton FinCom, Wenham Select Board, Wenham FinCom, the Wellness Committee, CPAC, and then I believe that we need, these 2 are 2 things that we want to make sure that, that are new or different. One is the Athletic Improvement Committee, the Turf
Field Committee.
Field Committee.
Yep.
And the other one is that I did send you out an email that Wenham Master Planning has requested, and that would be a little more than a liaison. That's actually to be on the Wenham Master Planning, but I felt like it fit in with this agenda item. Okay. So, I'm just wanted to lead so that you all heard that list, and I know you're excited about lots of them. I mean, I can just dive in and start from the top, or you guys, if you have a different way that you'd
I have a
like
question. What's the Wellness Committee?
So the Wellness Committee that we, it's, and Eric, you can jump in, but they sort of went a little bit dormant during COVID. But Michelle Horgan used to be our liaison to them, and it was, would it be Wendy who's leading it?
Correct.
So Wendy, who just presented us tonight, would be leading it. It's basically a committee that exists within the school, but they're focused on nutrition, lifetime fitness, health.
Yep. It's a state-required committee to examine and work within schools to examine wellness, things related to nutrition and wellness activities. It even crosses over into health as well. And then they were meeting monthly. We actually need to update our wellness plan. It has to be updated every so many years, and then so they'll build that and then recommend policy and things like that. So kind of a wellness working group, if you will.
Okay.
But they really cover health, the kind of health side of PE, and then food and nutrition as well.
Jen?
Because the DEI report is coming out, are we going to have a DEI group that you're going to want a school committee member to liaise with?
It's a good question. We do have the DEIB working group, so we could add it, or we could just, they could report to us X number of times a year.
I'm also wondering, I think that's a very good question.
Yeah.
And I'm also wondering, I'm sort of wondering if maybe we ask that question when they present. We can always.
That works.
Yeah, because I think that's I actually think it's a good question, but I don't know that we want to do it without sort of knowing what it would entail or what it.
So Dana, I wrote these down so we would have a list.
Is this you or is this Eric?
Oh, that's not me.
No,
That's me. I just threw 'em up
I didn't
there,
do
so.
that.
I've got 12.
I got 13, actually, so,
Well, middle school, high school's 1, right?
Middle and
Yeah.
high school is 1.
That's
Yeah.
one.
oh, so that would be the 12, yeah.
Yep, I've got that. I've got Bucher, Cutler, Winthrop, middle school, high school. Hamilton Select, yep. Wellness, CPAC, turf.
So if everybody has 1 and 5 of us have 2, then we cover all of
Yeah.
them.
I'm not sure what HW Cam is showing. Amy, can you see what's up on the screen?
No.
I have the list up. from
Okay, all right, you've
the
got it, okay.
website.
Okay, good. All right. Okay, so be thinking that you really need to be on at least one of these, and some people need to be on 2.
I'd like to take Bucher, but just because
All
Colin
right.
goes there. Is anyone going to fight me for Bucher?
Yeah, maybe that's how we do it. We just offer to fight.
Okay.
Like,
I would like to take Bucher if there's no other
All right.
people.
All right, I'm going to just pencil you in, and we'll just have people, all right.
I would like to take Cutler.
All right, Anna's diving in for Cutler. Winthrop?
Me, please.
All right, Amy wants
right.
Winthrop.
I'll take
Okay.
the middle school and high school.
Jen, middle and high school. I'm loving this. This is super easy. All right, Hamilton Select Board. I believe that I am currently the liaison. I do feel it should be a person from Hamilton.
I will take that one.
Awesome. All right, Amy.
She's done.
All right, I will take on the FinCom unless you want to, Anna, in Hamilton.
No, I have other dreams later in this list.
Okay. All right. Wenham people, Wenham Select Board.
I can do the select board.
All right.
Do you want to just get out of the master planning? Is that it?
That, I don't want to be on anything else.
Julia saw through what that was happening there.
Okay.
Wenham FinCom, do you want that one too, David, or do you want
If
somebody
I'm going
else?
to do master planning, you have to do both of those.
I'll
Does
do
David
both.
Frankel
I
want one?
No,
Oh, yeah, sorry. We forgot we have another Wenhamite.
Yeah,
I'm interested
yeah, and
in,
Jen is it, we got a lot of Wenham.
Oh, my gosh, I totally forgot.
I'm interested in the master planning, yes.
You're interested in the Wenham Master Planning? Is anybody else interested in Wenham Master Planning?
No.
But I'll do turf field
Oh,
if
yes,
David
no.
doesn't want
You
it.
can take it. You can totally take it.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's not that
Are
I'm
you
not
interested in Wenham Master
interested. I
Planning?
just,
No?
I don't-
All right, so.
if you want to take
Wait.
it, take it.
Hold on, you're going too fast for me. All right, so I heard David Frankel is interested in Wenham Master Planning.
I am.
And again, that may actually be a more significant, possibly a more significant amount of time, just because it
Yeah, no,
sounded
I
like.
saw your
Yeah, I sent
note,
it.
but no, it does interest me.
Yeah,
No,
I
it
am
interests me a lot.
I am our representative to the Hamilton Master Planning, and it is very interesting. It's also more time consuming than the liaison
Yeah.
position typically
No, I think
is.
it's a really important, that can help ultimately the school.
Yes. Well, yes, there's going to be a lot of opportunities for conversations with the planning and the schools. It's timely.
The seminary's selling off.
Yes.
That's one
Oh,
really
yes.
big chess piece.
That's in Hamilton.
Hamilton, not in Wenham.
No.
I think it's all going to be a conversation, though.
Yeah,
When
sort of
they-
all.
The sell-off. Gordon
So
College.
I'm interested, for a second one, I'll take 2 in either the CPAC or the turf committee, but I'm not dedicated to one of those. I think Jen said she kind of wanted to do turf, so.
I would do turf or wellness. I could do
Okay.
either of those.
All right, well,
I'm more
I'd like to
wedded
do
turf.
wellness.
you'd like to do wellness?
And you said you're more wedded to turf? Okay, then that
All right,
works.
you want to do wellness?
Yeah.
All right, so we got Julia. I don't have anybody written down for the Wenham FinCom.
I thought it was Polito.
No, he said Select Board.
He said both, I thought.
I thought you said both.
Huh?
I can do both.
Oh, okay, I already missed that. That's great.
I'll be his alternate.
Okay,
I'll do the CPAC.
all right.
Because Jen, you said you wanted to do turf, right? Okay,
Isn't that where I got put?
yeah.
This
All
all
right.
worked out.
All right, let's see if we did that. All right, did we do it?
Does everybody have the right amount?
I got practically nothing. I got,
2, Amy's got
Amy's,
2,
yeah.
Lily's got 2, David.
Good job, everybody.
David Frankel has 1, but that's good.
All right, everybody look up there and make sure that's what you feel like you signed up for. Can you see that, Amy? Yep, okay,
I just sent it to her.
okay. All right, that was painless. All right,
Very collaborative.
okay. Great. I guess we're on to topics for future meetings.
Can you just confirm the retreat date is?
Oh, yes.
Of August?
It is, hold on. The retreat date is, it is not on my calendar, but it is, I know, back me up on this, people, it is the 4th.
August 4th
August
at
4th.
5.
And I think we were a little bit flexible on the time, but we sort of said 4 into the evening.
Okay. Thank you.
I had 5, but are we gonna move it to 4?
Well, I think my dream is 4, but we can, yeah. Pencil it in for 4 and we'll see how that, I don't know how that can't be on
Just a
my.
note about that, last year we had it at that really fancy place, and I don't know how everybody else feels about it, but I'd be just as happy with library and pizza as I would going.
I feel strongly about not being in this room.
That's why I said library.
Could do, yeah, we could do the middle school, high school library.
Yeah, I
Conditioned.
yeah, I think air conditioning would be nice. I think food would be nice. And again, I have a strong preference for a different room.
No problem. Yeah, I just don't, I was a little uncomfortable with like how expensive the place was that we went last year.
Do other people have preferences about where you might like to be? It does need to be somewhere that is accessible to the public. So like much as I would love to have you all to my backyard, that's not okay. Okay, all right.
I second Jen's feeling, though, that I am happy with something less fancy. I second Jen. Jen, I second you.
All right. But again, I'm going with more fancy than this.
There's a lot in the middle there, Dana.
It's just the acoustics in here that challenge me, that's all. Vinny?
So are you taking topics for just next 2 weeks from now, the last one in June, or are you going to jump into?
Oh, no, any future meeting.
So the second one, I have my year-end transfers. The second one in August.
Okay. So our second meeting of the year.
Correct.
So that would be September 8th?
No, in August.
No, August.
So that'd be
Well,
like
the
week
first
after.
meeting in August, but the second.
So the retreat, I think he's thinking of the retreat as being one meeting.
Oh,
We usually meet in August just for transfers.
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, hold on. Let me just, I'm trying to write. And
What I'm talking about.
Yes. It's August 18th, I think.
I'm just going to.
Illusion.
So do you, I'm just going to, I think that's what you must have had it pulled up already, Anna. the
Thursday,
date.
August 18th.
So you're saying on
Yeah,
Thursday,
August
the 18th
18th.
of August?
That should work.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. All right.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. All right. All right. Anybody else? Topics for future meetings? Okay. All right. I would take a motion if anyone has one.
I move to adjourn at 8:55 PM, which is exactly the time that Dana has noticed it. I don't think that's ever happened.
Never happened and kind of random.
Good
Second.
job.
Second by David Polito. Amy?
That's amazing.
Yes.
Amazing.
David Frankel?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Dana's yes, Anna?
Yes.
Julia?
Yes.
And we are adjourned.
Alara.